All right, good evening, good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. Welcome to the We Read the Documents stream. Tonight we're going to do one that some people might consider to be low-hanging fruit. Because, Nick Fuentes has already talked about Charlie Kirk, and I understand that. But, tonight I figured, why don't we play a little bit of Charlie Kirk's speech to the Council for National Policy on May 2019. Kind of a little bit of impromptu stream. So first I went to Turning Point USA's website. And, of course, join the movement. Oh, look at all these people so excited. There's Mike Pence up there, Ben Shapiro, and Ted Cruz, all the conservative heroes. And of course, you got Nikki Haley here. We believe in freedom with Nikki Haley, warmonger that she is. We believe in free markets, and we believe in limited government. So yeah, that's what you get with Turning Point USA. I mean, it's what you expect from neoconservatism, right? And you have their YouTube channel, and it's interesting. They do have the church senior minister addressing the shooting that happened in Texas yesterday. That's interesting. But, I mean, most of it's just standard neoconservative schlock. So, a lot of people don't know that Charlie Kirk, I guess we'll go ahead and start playing the speech, and I'll read some from some of these articles later in a minute. But this is Charlie Kirk's May 2019 speech to the Council for National Policy, and he is the founder and executive director of Turning Point USA.
Next, it's my pleasure to introduce a remarkable and talented man to speak on the campus battlefield. Charlie Kirk is the founder and president of Turning Point USA, a national student movement dedicated to identifying, organizing, and empowering young people to promote the principles of free markets and limited government. With representation on over 1,400 high school and college campuses nationwide and over 150 full-time staff, Turning Point USA is the largest and fastest growing conservative youth activist organization in this country. A regular on Fox News and a columnist at The Hill, Charlie is the best-selling author of Campus Battlefield and was the youngest speaker at the 2016 Republican National Convention. At just 25 years old, Charlie has appeared on CNBC, Fox News, and Fox Business News over 500 times and has been named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. His social media reach is over 100 million people per month, and according to Axios, he's one of the top 5 most engaged Twitter profiles in the world. Charlie's also the host of The Charlie Kirk Show, which recently launched as one of the top 15 podcasts.
Okay, does it seem like the CNP is not behind Charlie Kirk? I mean, look, that woman is getting down and just telling, look how important he is. Look at all the things he's doing. He's important. Charlie Kirk's important. He's so young. He's so important. Reaching out to the kids and letting them know what true conservatism is about.
In the country, where Kirk talks politics, pop culture, sports, and a little bit of everything else, all from his signature, no holds barred, right of center, freedom-loving point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, I give...
Wait, how the hell is Charlie Kirk right of center? I mean, he is, okay, so we got someone who's in the middle, okay? Someone who's nonpartisan. Someone who doesn't really, care anyway, or have any, beliefs either to the left or to the right, okay? And then you have, you go farther up the right, and then, you have, your regular conservative, maybe even someone who's a Republican, so you have a Republican, then conservative, then, your neoconservative, and then, you can go on from there, the different degrees of how far you want to go on to the right. But last time I checked, Charlie Kirk isn't right from center. It isn't like he has a few conservative beliefs. That's a little weird way of putting him.
You, Charlie Kirk.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. It's been a long month this week. So been crisscrossing the country. Just took a red eye to come in from San Diego to be here. I just see so many friends here in this room. I always love coming to CNP because I feel that this is the front lines of the culture war on so many fronts. I mean, I see Tom Fitton, who's just doing such an amazing job at Judicial Watch, and I see Morton Blackwell, who without your mentorship and help from the Leadership Institute, we wouldn't be where we are today at Turning Point USA. And CNP really brings all these culture warriors together in such
Let me play that part again.
a long month this week. So been crisscrossing the country. Just took a red eye to come in from San Diego to be here. I just see so many friends here in this room. I always love coming to CNP because I feel that this is the front lines of the culture war on so many fronts. I mean, I see Tom Fitton, who's just doing such an amazing job at Judicial Watch.
Go back and listen to the stream I did on Tom Fitton, his speech to the CNP. And then we're going to get Morton Blackwell. Morton Blackwell, man, we're going to really do a really deep dive stream on Morton Blackwell one day. You know, Rand Paul was just loving him some Morton Blackwell. He's been a CNP member for years, Morton Blackwell. Groomed all the conservatives coming up.
And I see Morton Blackwell, who without your mentorship and help from the Leadership Institute, we wouldn't be where we are today at Turning Point USA. And CNP really brings all these culture warriors together in such a unique way and unique fashion. I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. The fun thing about being from Illinois is we have term limits in Illinois. It's a little different than most states. It's 1 term in office, 1 term in jail. So when we ask for our governor's cell number, we actually mean is my grandmother was a lifelong Republican from the north side of Chicago. She passed away in the mid-1990s, and she's been voting Democrat ever since. So you might wonder how, I could go all day long on Chicago, Illinois jokes, by the way. You might wonder how someone from Chicago, 18-year-old from Chicago, got into this fight. Well, one of the great kind of ironies of the whole thing is by starting this organization, I actually never went to traditional 4-year college. When I was 18 years old, I decided to start this movement, Turning Point USA, with no money, no connections, and no idea what I was doing. But as I say every single day that I'm on a college campus speaking to audiences, packed room audiences, I say America is the greatest country in the history of the world.
Okay, he's just lied. I mean, he lied. Oh, let me find it. So Charlie Kirk, he just 18 years old, just no connections, just what's he gonna do? What's Charlie Kirk gonna do? How's Charlie Kirk gonna get money? How's Charlie Kirk gonna get money? Like, how is he gonna, found Turning Point USA as an 18-year-old? He just fell into it, just by golly, through gumption and luck. Charlie Kirk just somehow or another just manages to make it. He's just so lucky. He didn't even go to college. I mean, come on, it's just who's gonna believe this? Here we go. Kirk hadn't honed that pitch when his first big backer said yes. That backer was Foster Friess, who Foster Friess also counts for National Policy Member. The 77-year-old Republican mega-donor, known for bankrolling Rick Santorum's 2012 presidential campaign and for his strident critiques of Islam. Kirk approached Foster Friess at the 2012 Republican National Convention in Tampa and asked him to donate to a new student-focused group he recently created. He gave me $10,000 a couple weeks later, Kirk said. Suddenly, Kirk had money and the support of a conservative heavyweight. This is the greatest investment anyone ever made in me, Kirk said. It took time for the investment to pay off. Kirk says he almost shuttered the whole operation more than once. Well, how? What was he squandering them? He got all these back, like, this bull crap. He's got all this money and all these backers, okay? Foster Freeze gives him $10,000. I probably would have given more money just out of the blue. Like, he just went up to him. He was like, hey, old man, I got this idea of starting these college campus conservative group. I don't even really have a name for it yet. You know, if I want to teach the kids on campuses and on high school campuses, I want to teach them Ronald Reagan, good old conservatism, gee golly willikers. And then Foster Freeze is like, okay, man, here you go. I will fund, you know, whatever your organization is going to be. Here's 10,000. I mean, does anybody buy this? So first in the CMP meeting, he's like, well, somehow I was 18 years old and I worked hard to start Turning Point USA. I mean, I wish someone gave me a $10,000 check and say, hey, John, go search for the truth. You know, I mean, it's so stupid. Like, I don't want to be facetious. I would never take anybody's money like that, but it's just for him to be like, I pulled my work up by my bootstraps. And, you know, Charlie Kirk is still living with his parents. His parents in their $1 million Chicago home, okay? Charlie Kirk didn't come from nothing. It wasn't like he was like living in a shack in the Appalachian Mountains, all right? It's bull crap. It's contrived bull crap, all right? So he ends up getting donated $100,000 to Turning Point USA from Illinois' Governor Bruce Riener. And he also gets sponsorships from the Heritage Foundation and Reason Foundation and National Rifle Association, all these CMP-backed groups. So, I mean, again, like, it isn't like he just fell into the money. He's got all these backers. It's bullcrap. He's lying. And most people in this audience, like, how does Foster Freeze, who's likely sitting back in the CMP meeting, like, you know, well, I guess Charlie Kirk's not going to give me any credit for me giving that $10,000 to stardom. It's all bull.
Where if you have a vision, if you have work ethic, and you apply yourself, a kid with no idea what he was doing, no connections, and no money is actually able to succeed.
But you did, Charlie. Like, that's not... Look, I get it. From America, you wanted to give a story of hope to, you know, for success, but you don't want to lie. You don't want to lie. And again, being American, I believe the American people are the best collective group of people in the world. But again, the United States government in and of itself, no, it's corrupted as all hell.
America is that possible. Only in America is a story like that able to play itself out. And so, kind of being on the front lines of the culture war and fighting for very simple ideas that should not be controversial. Ideas such as America's the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world, that the Constitution's the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise capitalism is the most moral, proven, and effective economic system ever discovered.
Okay, so the first point. America's the greatest country in the world. I'm a little bit presumptuous, but as an American, yeah, I think, yeah. America's done a lot of evil, but the American people have done a lot of good too, so. The second point, the Constitution is the greatest framework, yeah, but, I mean, what are you going to give me the points next to the Founding Fathers all believe in Judeo-Christian values? Charlie Kirk, yeah, okay. Majority of them were Masons and deists, and very few of them were actual Christians. And one day I want to do a deep dive on that and present that to you guys. But I mean, it's not saying nothing new. But okay, so the third thing is, well, Charlie Kirk, like the first two, you could argue, you know. The third, though, free market the free market system is corrupted as all hell. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that free market capitalism and in combination with extreme amount of taxation put forth to us by the Internal Revenue Service, and on top of that, fractional reserve banking, all of that, you know, together is the reason why, I mean, eventually the economic bubble is going to burst again, and has burst many times previously beforehand. So, I mean, who here, instead of having to pay taxes and income tax, and the other various taxes you have to pay to the federal government, instead of having quote unquote free trade, why don't we, I don't know, charge tariffs instead? Go back to how this country was founded before the income tax. Just me. I think Charlie Kirk saying free trade is the best economic system in the world is a little bit too much there, bud.
These things should be not political issues whatsoever. These should be commonly agreed upon topics. However, unfortunately, we have an entire portion of the American political discourse that they go even further than saying America has made mistakes. They are now arguing that America is a mistake. This is the American left, and I would like to think that they've always been as radical as they say they are. Just Donald Trump and his success and his ability to achieve that success so quickly has revealed that radicalism quicker than ever before. And I'm one of the things.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy during Obama, Charlie. I don't think Trump really accelerated it. Maybe, but it's been there for quite a while. I mean, that's why people, quote unquote, voted for Trump. Many people voted for Trump in the first place was because, if it wasn't for Hillary Clinton was a horrible candidate, and many people saw her as being evil, and she is. You could argue it was the radicalization of the left during the Obama years that caused them to vote for Trump. Has it accelerated under Trump? Yeah, you could say liberals and Democrats have become unhinged more, but some of the conservatives have too. The left-right paradigm is, now more of a chasm more than I can remember in my lifetime. So yeah.
I'm kind of tired of hearing as people say, well, Charlie, where did all this radicalism come from? It's always been within the heart of the American left. It's just now they have permission to show their radicalism because they believe that whatever Donald Trump does, we must do the opposite. And so, of course, we joke around. They say Donald Trump could say, I love oxygen, and they'll come around, no matter what it possibly is. And I have two big things here that I do want to talk about, and some pertain to my fight on college campuses, some don't. Far too often, we always think that the left is wrong, and they think we're bad. So we always say, well, the left is incorrect with policy, and of course that is true. But immediately the left will go towards attacking our intentions and our motives. And I believe that
the left can't be all incorrect about policy, Charlie. Even me as a conservative Christian, and a lot of my beliefs are more towards the right. Doesn't mean there shouldn't be things like regulations to some degree. And I understand the government's corrupt, but you have to have some sort of regulations. If not, the corruptocracy runs ruckshot. I mean, that's why the Koch brothers want to deregulate so much. So some people can argue that that's important. Some people can argue that the pharmaceutical companies are having too much economic power and freedom to charge too much for their medications. I can agree on that. Some of Trump's policies, tariffs, they're not all right. Some of them are left. So for Charlie Kirk to say that the left is completely wrong on everything, a little bit too much there, bud.
We could actually win more people over and be telling the truth if we also say the left does not want what's best for this country. And this is something that I was told never to say. I was told never to say this. I would say, oh, Charlie, say the thing that we agree to disagree with the left. Well, I don't agree to disagree with Rashida Tlaib. I just don't. She wants a different country than we do. And I see my good friend Ginny Thomas here and Crystal, two great friends here. Thank you for all you do for our liberty on the front lines. And we talk about this a lot.
Well, one thing Tlaib doesn't want is a country that bows down to Israel, Charlie, which is what you want. You want to be able to ban any type of boycott or divestment of or sanctions against Israel. Now I'm not, excusing Rashida Tlaib. Her being a Muslim woman is, antithetical to a lot of my beliefs as, her also being liberal too, antithetical to a lot of my beliefs as being conservative Christian. And I'm not going to be a Muslim apologist, but The thing is Charlie, I mean, come on, man. Like, there are a few things that she's right about that you're definitely wrong about. One of them being you cowering down and being, an ardent Zionist. So yeah, I mean that's a problem, and that's
Which is, if we continue to just try to prove the left wrong on debate and ideas, we should do that, but we don't critique where they are coming from using their own language, then they are going to continue to attack our motives. Because for most Americans, they think most Americans that don't agree with conservatives, and I find this on college campuses all the time, they have been told, they have been programmed that everyone in this room wants to control women. That's why we don't want abortion. You see that, right? Not that we want to protect the lives of the unborn, but somehow we're plotting and planning to control people. That doesn't drive.
Well, the CMP is plotting and planning to control people, but it's not women's right to choose. I mean, I'm pro-life. I agree with Charlie on that. However, he is wrong. That's what the CMP does. It is to plot and control the lives, just like the CFR would be, of the American citizens and people in the world. I mean, it's part of the world order structure. He's lying there.
Anyone in this room does it? Of course not. We want to protect the lives and the dignity of all people. That somehow we want tax cuts just to help big transnational corporations and the billionaire elite. Not we don't want tax cuts to create jobs, create community, but the left is really...
Trump's tax cuts, they helped. I mean, they helped me a little bit, I'll admit it, with my 2018 taxes, but I mean, if you're single and not married, it didn't help very much, if at all. And there were a lot of tax breaks to the wealthy that were given by Trump. Why don't we just do away with the federal income tax and replace it with some sort of excise tax like tariffs? This is that simple, Charlie. But nah, that would hurt free trade. Can't do that. That's a leftist position.
Be good at categorizing the political narrative on terms of intentions. And yet now we have in front of us an entire new form of Democrat. I put new in parentheses because I said I think they've always been this radical. They're just revealing their radicalism now. That are saying America is a mistake. This is the outward position of many members of the Democrat Party now. And this really troubles me because the disagreements between Republicans and Democrats in the 60s and 70s, at least on the surface, used to be, well, we both agree America's a great place. We just want to do a couple different things. We might want to raise taxes or cut taxes, fund schools differently. And now you have a radicalization that has been revealed where Democrats now, such as, and I'll get into this in a second, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who says, you don't understand.
Which, by the way, according to the conservatives, she is the worst thing in the world, even though she has no power as a junior congresswoman. But, she's the worst. Like, the worst. Not like Nancy Pelosi or who's Speaker of the House, who has way more power. Not her, nah. Or Elizabeth Warren, or long-term Massachusetts congresswoman. No, none of that. No, none. It's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the scapegoat to the right to always go to. And yeah, I'm not defending, her. She's not. Many of her beliefs are very antithetical to mine, but they make her out to be the boogeyman and an idiot at the same time. Which I'm not saying she's the brightest crayon on the box either, but it's just, you gotta realize that's what it is. Instead of Charlie Kirk's not gonna sit here and talk about everybody. He's not gonna mention the true crimes of the Clintons, for example, or the true crimes of Obama, or even Soros, or anything like that. He's just gonna, I'm gonna pick out Ocasio-Cortez because everybody does that. That's safe. The true crimes of the left, Charlie Kirk will never mention because they're tied in with the crimes of the right. This is not going to happen.
And this country was illegally founded. It is rooted in racism, and it should be deconstructed. And that term, exactly. That's what they want to have happen to the country. That term deconstruction is so important. That is one of the key philosophies that they teach in colleges. And this is why what we're doing at Turning Point USA, I believe, has the opportunity to significantly move the dial and continue to move the dial, because we have seen our work already make a difference. Because whatever happens on college campuses will soon happen in the halls of Congress. College campuses are the leading indicator for a culture, no matter what. Many years ago, I spoke at a CNN.
He's not wrong there. You can, take the pulse of how a country's ideals are doing by what's being taught on college campuses and how people are receptive to what's going on college campuses. So, Charlie's right. I'm going to say he's right. But he's only giving partial truths the majority of the speech.
I think it was out, it might have been 2 or 3 years ago, either in California or somewhere. And I said to this very audience, and I said, soon there will be someone that comes to Congress that is clueless, young, constantly wrong but never in doubt, socialist, probably someone in the intersectional coalition of the left, and someone that will then challenge the very idea of America. And this is a very politically in-tuned audience, and you're one of the few audiences that didn't laugh when I said that. But as I traveled to more GOP groups and Tea Party groups and I signaled that warning, people didn't take it seriously. Charlie, socialism will never come to this country. That's what I was told. Socialism will never come. And still, I still see this all the time. People say, oh.
It's already here in a lot of regards, but so is fascism too. Look at the police state.
Oh, don't take this seriously. The more radical they become, the more it helps us. Who has heard this? Who's heard this? I'm so tired of hearing this. That somehow the more radical that people are going to win. There is no evidence of that. There's no evidence that the more radical they become, somehow it's going to help us in the end. The more radical they become, the more damage they'll do when they assume power. And there will be a time when they get back in power. There will be. It's just a statistical inevitability. And so there's nothing good about Ilhan Omar questioning anyone who says something nice about Israel as dual loyalty or
I got a signal here. I'm Charlie Kirk. I got a signal. To the Zionists that are part of the CMP, that faction. I gotta let you know that I'm here for you.
Characterizing 9/11 as some people who did something. That's not helpful to our country whatsoever. But these ideas are tested.
Yeah, I know, Charlie. It was only the Muslim hijackers that did 9/11, not the Anglo interest or Mossad or, CMP or CFR's involvement in individual power players. Now, it wasn't any of them. It was just Saudi Arabian hijackers and Osama bin Laden. That's who did it. That's who did 9/11.
And perfected on college campuses. I don't know Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I don't know Rashida Tlaib. I don't know Ilhan Omar. But I know the mold. I'm up against their mold every single day. The talking points that AOC is tweeting are the same hecklers that I get when I go on a college campus.
But he's just the other side of the coin. Yeah, they're all liberal shills for the CFR and for the globalist world order. But Charlie Kirk is a shill for the CMP and the fascist, side of it, the world order. I mean, it's like the pot calling the kettle black.
At Berkeley or Stanford or Harvard at Yale. They have now decided and they have concluded to take the college activist and the energy and the anger that is bred on the front lines of these universities, give it a little bit of media training, raise it a couple $1 million through small dollar donations using Act Blue and these very these machines that have been built, and then throw them into Congress. And it's working for them. And it's working. And now you see the old school Democrats, as Pelosi and Schumer, they don't know what's happened. Because in a lot of ways, Pelosi and Schumer and the leadership of the Democrat Party, they have tried to resist this kind of campus mob for so long.
I mean, on paper, yes, but if you go back and look how the CMP, how they've used technology, how they've used vote rigging, how they've used social media platforms, the Republicans, the conservatives are a lot better at using mimetic warfare, Alexander Duke and chaos magic. When you look at all that, I mean, Charlie Kirk's literally just complaining, look at the left, they're doing this at a much rapid pace, and well, the Republicans have been doing it too for forever. I mean, John Kenneth Blackwell, when the CMP started in 1981, was involved in doing this, that they were going to overcome the left. In a lot of ways they kind of have. You might argue, well, John, you're a millennial, and the millennials tend to be more liberal, and yeah, duh, but to say that the Republicans haven't been able to control a lot of talk radio, a lot of different media outlets, Fox News, for example. Now you could say that the globalist world order is controlling the majority of the newspapers and a majority of the television. Yeah, of course. But many people still listen to Rush Limbaugh. I mean, millions and millions and millions upon millions of listeners. The right is way more active on Twitter. Now, you might not seem think like that to be the case, but yeah, I mean, when you got Mike Cernovich and Jack Pesovic and Laura Loomer and you tell me that they're not controlling it in the 2016 election, whether now you like someone myself who believes that all voting is rigged and whoever wins. But let's just take that out for a moment and just say that Trump won. If you take the part out of the voting being rigged, okay, but let's just throw that to the side. Trump won on paper because the CMP was able to mobilize the conservatives to vote for him against Clinton, and was able to put memes out there and use Twitter and Cambridge Analytica through Facebook ads to convince people to vote for Trump. So the right is pretty good at doing this, Charlie, and I get it. The globalists, is Marxists and Bolshevik, as a lot of college campuses are in their thinking. Okay, and I understand that. You don't match it with fervor. It just pushes people further into left-right paradigms. What the world order wants.
And I'm telling you right now,
that Barack Obama was supposed to sorry about that, go back and play it.
the anger that these people have just for our country is unmistakable. And it's no longer about what is best for America. They want to completely, radically redefine America. It's one of the first times in American history where an entire party no longer tries to make themselves more moderate in the eyes of their constituents. See, Barack Obama had to do this. Barack Obama was actually, when he was running for president, he ran much more conservatively than most of us even remember. He ran that marriage was between one man and one woman. He ran that bad teachers should be fired. He ran for increased opportunity in the inner cities. He ran that fathers should be put back in the black home. These are things that we forget.
He also ran that he was going to shut down Guantanamo Bay, and that didn't happen.
That Barack Obama ran on. But then, of course, his radicalism slipped out 5 days before the election in 2008, where he said, we are just days away from radically transforming our country. Well, you want to radically transform that which you love? It's kind of silly. Do you go to your wife and say, I love you so much, I can't wait to radically transform you? This beautiful hotel, I can't wait to radically transform it, and then it will be, he had contempt for this country. And his motivations are something that one of the reasons Mitt Romney lost in 2012 I could actually make the argument that the country, in some ways, Obama did next to nothing in his second term that we weren't able to repeal through the President Trump, that Romney actually, I think, would have put the conservative movement back 20 years if he would have won in 2012.
Someone needs to tell Charlie that Trump still hasn't repealed Obamacare. Nah, the Republicans sabotaged him on that. I mean, if you're going basic narrative, okay? And it's not going to get repealed. So, yeah, oopsie doopsie.
I actually could make that argument. Because I think we would have had another Rockefeller Republican moment where this would have governed as Democrat light, where Donald Trump has actually almost undid everything President Obama did in his second term. President Obama didn't get any Supreme Court nominees in his second term. His big deal was the Iran deal, which President Trump repealed. He was really kind of just a placeholder president in his second term, where Mitt Romney refused to critique the intentions of Barack Obama. He said, he's a nice guy. This is what just drives me nuts about conservatives. Mitt Romney, he's a nice guy. We just have different ways to accomplish things. The divide in our country can be split into three categories. I mentioned one of them, which is the idea of America is now put on referendum. The second of which is how do individuals handle adversity? And this is where our school system has failed the next generation. Every person in this room and every person alive will handle some form of adversity in their life. Do you handle adversity by blaming others and playing the victim, or looking inward, getting tougher, and asking yourself what you can do to overcome that obstacle? Being a victor or a victim. It's that simple. And our entire school system...
All right, he's right here. I mean, you can... My son Abel died. My grandfather, one of some of the best advice he ever gave me is he said I could close the blinds and never do anything again and just sit in my bedroom or cry, or I can get up and, provide for my family and be with them in his honor, and continue to be a man and to work and to live and to do things. So I mean that is a standard conservative talking point. I'm not saying that some people get shafted. I'm not saying that at all, but you still have to make whatever your best of whatever you're given in life. And it's a very hard thing for a lot of people to understand.
Public school system, I should say, now gives virtue to being a victim, where there is almost a metaphorical Olympic gold medal that is given to a student if you can prove you're the most oppressed person in the room. I call this the Oppression Olympics, where there is a competition of a lot of things that is nothing more than the person's skin color, mind you, which the left's obsession with skin color is unbelievable, isn't it? It's as if the entire dream of Martin Luther King is deteriorating in front of our eyes, where he said, I want to judge people based on character, not on the color of their skin, where the left is so focused on now judging people on the color of their skin, not the content of their character, where they have people saying that a white man should not be president again. How about we just have ethical, moral leaders with good ideas be president? Who cares what they look like or where they come from or their skin color? But to the left, that doesn't mean anything. I'll get to identity politics in a second. And so this divide of victim versus victor has helped pave the way for the socialists in this country. Because when you have an entire generation that thinks they're victims, they think they've been disaffected. It's a very easy population to then sell a bunch of free stuff to. You've been punished. Well, okay, sure. And then they convince them of that. Even though my generation, the generation that is fueling the rise of Bernie Sanders, is the most prosperous generation, has the most peaceful condition, has more opportunity than ever before, has the highest standard of living, and has the highest likelihood to succeed ever in American history. It's the least oppressed generation in world history. They've been convinced that they're living through some sort of massive struggle. And so when you convince a generation of that...
I can't, no, he's wrong about... I'm not going to say that we don't have a lot of freedoms, but we are kind of oppressed more since 9/11. We've eroded more of our freedoms. I'd actually argue that my generation, growing up during the Clinton years, probably was the least amount of oppression from a government standpoint. Now, I mean, some people on the left would argue that racism was bigger during that time period, but as far as this like totality of government oppression on a person's life, I mean, I'm pretty sure, that, Clinton years compared to my children's generation, or Generation Z, I'm pretty sure that they're under a lot more surveillance, a lot of their freedoms of the First and Second. I guess I can't handle guns per se, but the First Amendment. I don't think, my children, as far as freedom is concerned, is the most entitled generation. I think, that's not the case.
When you convince a generation of that, selling free stuff is really easy. Because then you say, it's the Wall Street bankers, and it is the billionaire elites, and it is the climate change polluters that have made you not happy. Vote for me, and I will make it right. This is the victim versus victor. And it's really easy to create victims. It's hard to be a victor. It's hard to do that. So that's the second divide. The third divide is much more simple. You have an entire segment of the American population, and these people are almost all on the left, that are angry that they live in America. You should be thankful that you live in America. This is a huge divide. It's a massive divide. And when you are thankful for something, you're much less likely to want to deconstruct it, much less likely to want to demolish it. I think gratitude is one of the things that I'm believe it or not, a product of the public school education system. I was always taught contempt and anger for America. I was never taught appreciation or thankfulness. So that divide of anger versus gratitude, isn't that right now what's playing out in our political discourse? You have people that are running for president, such as Robert Francis O'Rourke. I refuse to use that fake name, that fake Hispanic name from Texas. Robert Francis O'Rourke. It's so funny when he I think he re-announced his presidential campaign, or his first announcement. The media, which treats him far too nicely, they say, well, he announced his presidential campaign in his native language. I said, oh wow, I didn't know he spoke Gaelic. That's really interesting. And so when he announces for the presidency, he says, America's a racist and bigoted and homophobic country. I think to myself, why would you want to be president of a country like that? That sounds like a horrible place. Like, just get out. Like, that's a horrible... Can a Democrat running for president say one nice thing about America? There's one nice thing. And instead...
I mean... I'm trying to get through the rest of this. It just proves how Charlie Kirk is. He's just conservatism this and neoconservatism that, and it's just talking points and platitudes. And does anybody really think he even believes half the stuff that he says?
The only thing that they say is we could do better than this as a country. We could do better as the best economy that we've ever had, and lowest ever black unemployment, Hispanic unemployment, Latino unemployment, peace abroad, ISIS destroyed, energy independent, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, 150 circuit court judges, embassy to Jerusalem, Iran deal canceled.
Well, Kavanaugh returned as senator. I mean, he covered up the Vince Foster murder, and he, as a conservative Supreme Court justice, he's actually ruled with the liberals quite a few times and has thrown a wrench on, so much even Drudge has reported about it. And the whole moving the embassy to Jerusalem deal, Trump winning. We're winning everywhere.
Enemies on notice. philosophy of one of my mentors.
So Charlie, when he charges people that go around the country and speak to college campuses, that's all he's got to do is just stand up there and say, hey, you can lose all this in a blink of an eye, and snap his fingers and be done. And I'd be like, hey, Turning Point USA ain't doing so much bad work there. But no, he's doing more than that. He's going around and, pushing Council for National Policy talking points and neoconservatism. And the wars in the Middle East are a great thing, and Zionism is great, and free trade is excellent. Okay. I mean, he's going around, saying, giving pro-life platitudes and Second Amendment platitudes and First Amendment. Even though Trump is eroding the First Amendment, some people could say by the anti-Semitic executive order reducing funding to college campuses. But, if Turning Point USA is coming to your college campus or your high school, you're probably going to get a lot of propaganda that's going to further divide the right and the left.
Dennis Prager, who I think is phenomenal. And Dennis Prager...
No, Dennis Prager's not phenomenal, by the way. No. Council for National Policy member, part of the Salem Media Group, with this Dennis Prager show, wrote scholarly books, should I say, on Genesis and Exodus. Prager's ardent Zionist. Prager's not a good man.
Talks about the American Trinity. And I've added that there's an equal and sinister leftist Trinity. So the American Trinity is first and foremost the Latin phrase e pluribus unum, which is the phrase out of many one, which is actually a signal of unity. The Founding Fathers put that on the presidential seal. They put it on many of our founding documents. It was one of the first civilizations that was chartered on the idea of bringing people together. Go figure. Most was about actually pitting people against each other. The second part of the American Trinity is the word liberty. Essentially, you can do what you want to do, how you want to do it, but you have to take responsibility for yourself and take responsibility for your life. And the Founding Fathers talked about that a lot in the Federalist Papers, that, well, we can give liberty to people, but people are going to have to look inward, look to the family, and look to the community, not to government.
Okay, but there's a difference, Charlie, between liberty and being a libertine. And their first point...
To be able to be successful and self-reliant. The third part of the American Trinity is that phrase, in God we trust. The recognition that our rights come from God, not from government, that we are on a vertical axis, not a horizontal axis with government, that there's something greater than all of us that our rights come from. This is foundational in the American Trinity. These are unique American values. No other country can attest to these sort of foundational underpinnings. Now, what's the leftist Trinity? It's definitely not e pluribus unum, out of many one. It's divide and conquer. And this is where one of the cancer...
Yeah, but the CMP is doing that too. I mean, come on, Charlie. Now, come on.
In America right now is metastasizing in a way that could be our downfall. And this is identity politics. Identity politics is one of
which Turning Point USA plays. I mean, they used identity politics to go after Nick Fuentes and label him as being anti-Semitic. I mean, this hasn't really aged well, has it, Charlie?
the most dangerous movements happening within our political system. And it starts in our universities, where we now have black-only dormitories on hundreds of universities across the country. We have black-only graduation ceremonies at Harvard University. The new SAT standards come out with a disadvantage score that give a higher score if you're a black person, but a lower score if you're an Asian American person, and a medium score.
All right, he's right here. He's right.
It depends what kind, if you grew up as a white person in poverty or not, where we are now looking at people on things they cannot control. The left needs division. We as conservatives seek towards unity and seek towards reconciliation and agreement.
That's not true. That's not. I mean, as Americans, we should seek towards unity, but to say that the CMP isn't pushing its own form of division, when Michael Savage, or should I say Michael Weiner, when a Jewish American is saying on his radio show that liberals should be sent to re-education camps, liberal family members or people who go on Twitter should be sent to re-education camps. When a Jewish American is telling people to go to re-education camps, something's wrong. The CMP is pushing division. Alex Jones is telling people that they need to. That's what the Rex 84 camps are for. They're for illegal immigrants. But on top of that, they're more for the liberal dissonance. Whole indictments, trust the plan. It's all. Yeah, okay, Charlie. Only the left is sowing seeds of division, not the extreme left. Not the extreme right isn't doing it either. The CMP isn't sowing just as much division as the CFR is. Get out of here.
Because when you can divide, then of course you can conquer and have control. This is why they want to turn men versus women by weaponizing the Me Too movement. This is why they want to turn rich versus poor, which came out of the Occupy Wall Street movement. This is why they want to turn police versus citizens, which came out of the Black Lives Matter movement. Can you point to one leftist movement that was ever about bringing people together? Can you show me one time the left has ever launched a protest in the streets that was about agreement and reconciliation and not trying to punish somebody else for their problems? Never. The left has always been and and especially today, be about dividing and conquering. And now they're focused on dividing and conquering and something that's really dangerous. And this stems exactly from the universities and the work that we're doing at Turning Point USA. Because the colleges are now teaching that these superficial things that the entire civil rights era, which was, thank you Republicans, right, for pushing through the civil rights era, know your history because our schools don't teach it, is now being backtracked, where we are now resegregating our students. Now we are punishing people based on their skin color, where the predominant viewpoint taught in public schools, the one thing that I find that has the most commonality is this horrific and racist teaching of white privilege. And this is everywhere, that students are being taught that there's an inherent privilege in just the melanin in your skin.
He's right here. I'll give him credit when credit is due. And this is a problem.
And so that's the first pillar of the leftist trinity, is divide and conquer. The second, it's definitely not about liberty. The left does not believe in liberty, but they do believe in control. Everything the left does is to try to control people. The Green New Deal is not about environmental protection. It's about how can we control more people? How can we give ourselves more power and exert our philosopher king status over the most amount of people possible? So they find something that the good intentions of the masses care about, which is the environment.
Okay, so he's wrong about the Dems or the real racist part a minute ago, but he was right about college campuses pushing a whole bunch of the white privilege narrative. Go tell the Appalachian whites who have no electricity, no running water, that they have a large amount of privilege.
In this room wakes up every day and they say, how do I make rivers more polluted and the air more murky? But that's what they say about us, isn't it? So we need to say about them, the reason they're pushing this is they want to make themselves kings and queens for life. Because you know what's so fun about the environment? It's impossible science to actually prove. There's no predictive capability with any of their models, so if it gets hotter or gets colder, they're always right. Because the guiding premise of the whole climate change debate is unpredictability. Notice how it went from global warming to climate change. So therefore, when you have unpredictability, you're always correct even when you're wrong. Even if things stay the same, it's unpredictable. And the only solution is to give us more power. We're going to figure it out. We'll have more committees. We'll have more national tribunals. We'll have more penalizations for the very industries that they have contempt for. And the third part is definitely not in God we trust. The left does not believe in God we trust, but they do believe in government we trust.
There's some liberals that are Christians, Charlie. Like, dude. Yeah, the version of CMP dominionism, they really go with "in God we trust," the extreme Calvinism. Yeah, okay.
So this is the distinction that's happening in America between the true American Trinity and the leftist trinity that is being pushed on these college campuses every single day. And I'll give you one point of optimism. When I go on these college campuses, it's not that students are opposed to our ideas inherently. It's not. It's that they've never been exposed to them at all in the first place. More times than not, I find students that say, Charlie, are you really trying to say America is a good country? I've never been taught that before. Or we had a student that came up at the university.
I would say the American people as a whole, yeah, they do their best. But the country, the frame of the government that we have now that's been corrupted by the world order and the many crimes. I mean, even Trump said that, during the 2016 election. The wars in the Middle East, Iran-Contra, drug running, kid running, gun running. Yeah, the crimes of the American government controlled by the world order are numerous. Something that Charlie Kirk will never mention at all. I'll never mention the crimes of the United States or the crimes of Israel or the crimes of Russia or China or any of the countries that I guess China he will, but not necessarily Russia. The countries that the CNP are in league with. Majority of the Five Eyes. He won't mention any of that. He'll give them a pass. China he will. I misspoke on that. I apologize. China, most of the people in the CNP will definitely go after. But yeah, it is what it is.
To Yale, and she now has 2 master's degrees and a doctorate, and she said, Charlie, I never heard a good thing ever about a conservative thinker, about the free market, or about America my whole time at Yale. She said, I went on YouTube, I was self-taught, and I defected from all this leftist nonsense. This actually presents a great opportunity, because if I was going to these campuses and students were well-versed and well-prepared and already knew our arguments like this, then I would be a little more pessimistic. Instead, students are curious, and they lean in and they say, well, tell me more. Are you really saying Trump has the lowest ever black unemployment and lowest ever Latino? I never knew that. Really? Like things are going well right now? Because I'm being told the world is burning.
Things are not going that well. It's being propped up. It's the last milking of the golden calf in the United States of America, likely. The economy, what must go up must come down, people. The stock market can't be inflated forever. It just can't be. Those number. Oh man, hold on. Sorry, I didn't have that part. Let me play it again. Technical issues.
Our arguments like this, then I would be a little more pessimistic. Instead, students are curious and they lean in and they say, well, tell me more. Are you really saying Trump has the lowest ever black unemployment and lowest ever Latino? I never knew that. Really? Like things are going well right now? Because I'm being told the world is burning. You think I'm kidding. These college campuses teach these students as if the world is in total chaos and calamity right now, that we are on the verge of 5 different world wars, that the economy is horrific for everyone unless you're a multi-billionaire. And these students say, Charlie, you're trying to tell me wages are going up for the middle class and manufacturing jobs are coming back and there's economic growth and there's more job openings and we have people to fill it and there's the lowest black poverty rate ever and 5 million people off food stamps and lowest ever black, Latino, and Asian unemployment, lowest women unemployment in 60 years. I didn't know that. And the stuff that we all hear every day and that is in our narrative is not stuff that that students hear. And so the other thing about this is information consumption. I know that there's been some great work done, and Ginny's been working on this, on fighting the tech bias. And this is so important. I cannot reinforce how important it is that we have some sort of counterbalance to the monopolization that these tech companies have in our country. I want everyone in this room for one day to process news like a millennial. One day. No Fox News, no Rush Limbaugh, no Mark Levin, no Larry Elder, no Dennis Prager, no Wall Street Journal, no Drudge Report. Get a Facebook, get an Instagram, and that's the only place you can get news from, and you have to subscribe to AJ+.
CMP, like when he's naming like Dennis Prager. It's like, it's all those CMP outlets. It's like, and look, I'm not defending BuzzFeed or, the CFR type liberal establishment outlets and their unbiased reporting either, okay, because neither one of them do. But it's just, again, it's, I'm going to tell you partial truths. And most people do get their, information from Facebook or Twitter and don't really fact check or read primary sources or spin for biases on both sides. People really, don't have any true power of discernment. It's frightening in a lot of ways. Or you can't really blame them. A lot of it's just been taken out of them. They don't have the time. They're numb to their fellow man or numb to what's going on in the world around them. A very strong spirit of apathy attacking them. It's sad that it is the state of the world that we live in.
Which is an Al Jazeera equivalent, AJ+, which is just doing horrific things. So do that for one day. By the end of that day, you might say, maybe we should impeach Donald Trump. No, I'm kidding. But it's so bad because we're dealing with a generation that consumes information so differently than everyone in this room. Is that the truth that we find, of course President Trump is doing well. You look at the information that is being actually propagandized amongst the minds of our youth, it's a completely different universe. And this is why we have to, in some ways, whether it be through government policy, people a lot smarter than me can be the ones that actually architect this, have a check on these tech companies. These tech companies have become more powerful than the federal government in a lot of ways. Google and Facebook alone have...
Yeah, but those tech companies are also in bed with the world order and the government too, Charlie. I mean, come on now.
The ability, if they want, to defeat Donald Trump. They could nominate the worst, they could nominate Bill de Blasio, okay? Imagine being the worst at something and then wanting to be president. He's the worst mayor in New York history. Could you imagine being the worst at something and then wanting to be president? They could nominate Bill de Blasio, and if they wanted to, they could defeat Donald Trump. That's how powerful Google is. Google can tell people that polling locations are in different areas. Google can change the way that people view a certain topic or issue like this. And there's no evidence that their behavior is getting any better. Facebook is delisting people by the hour that might have a difference of opinion. And these tech overlords are the same people that weaponized the IRS under Lois Lerner. Now they have a lot more power than the IRS. At least when the IRS wants to audit you, they have to send a letter and you can have a lawyer present. At least there that exists. If Google decides to turn the lights off on you, there's no due process, there's nothing. There's no tech bill of rights, does not exist. And so our market share of ideas is decreasing online because these tech companies see that we're having success. And so for the very, very smart people in this room that are fighting against that, this is a fundamentally important issue for our country, especially going into 2020, because they understand the left is going for the kill here. They know that if they can curtail the conversation and silence our most effective voices, they can have a monopoly of ideas. Where else have they done that? The left does this everywhere. The left has done this in Hollywood. If you're a conservative actor, you can't get...
But the right does it too, Charlie. I mean, that's one of the biggest things about the truth or industrial complex, about the control of the John Birch Society and Council for National Policy on the truther world is that many people always say to me, well, the globalists control 90% of the world, and and everything that everything that you take in and everything that you see, so therefore they're more stronger, and everything. Well, I think a lot of people discount how many people actually still listen to the radio in their cars, and still listen to talk radio, and still visit the Drudge Report, which is one of the biggest websites in the world. And yeah, I'm no Matt Drudge apologist at all. I mean, it counts for national policy hack. But the right has pretty significant influence still in the population. I mean, talk radio, Drudge, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, activist groups like Turning Point USA. To say that the right has no power, like many people do, that globalists control everything, I mean, you have to be real here. That's not the case. Both sides of the world order are weaponized, and both sides of the world order have their platforms and their talking points. It's always been. It's always been them versus us.
A movie. The left has done this on college campuses. If you're a conservative professor, you will not get tenure. And now if you try to be a conservative YouTuber, they will not put you at the same level, and they might even delist you altogether. The left hates the idea that there are other ideas. The left does not want a marketplace. They do not want debate or dialogue or discussion. They want a monopoly. The left wants a complete and total monolithic control over every single part of our conversation in our lives. And so this is exactly why we're doing what we're doing at Turning Point USA, Finding the Front Lines. And I just want to thank, I could go through dozens and dozens. I see the Thompsons here who have supported us for many, many years. I just see so many amazing people in this room that have had our back at Turning Point USA. And it's just been an amazing 6.5 years. We're now on 1,400 high school and college campuses, thousands of people going through our ranks. And just for those of you that believed, in us and in our vision when it was just, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds with a lot of passion and energy, this is an organization that the left really fears. And that's exactly how you are making a difference. And so, in closing, remember, whatever happens on college campuses will happen in Congress. Do not be afraid to question the motives of the left as they try to deconstruct our country. And then finally, if we are able to draw the distinction and differences between what we stand for, which are not wildly controversial things, but agreeable American virtues, and the radicalism that has been revealed amongst the left, we will win and they will lose. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. So.
He is amazing. If you think he was good up here to a friendly audience, go on the website and see what he does on college campuses where he's booed, where he's attacked, where people come up to him, young people come up to him, and they just don't understand America. He is calm. He tries to teach. He's a natural teacher. So thank you, Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA. Thank you.
There's other Turning Point USA speeches on here, but I don't think I'm going to play another one by Charlie Kirk. Why? Because what that woman just said is wrong. His speech was boring. Tom Fitton's speech or Rand Paul's speech, both of those had more information and were better orators. Charlie Kirk seemed like he was nervous and a little bit, under a lot of pressure, and just he's not a good speaker in my opinion at all. It's like folds like a wet napkin. But yeah, I mean, Big D said in the chat, the price of everything keeps going up. Not my paycheck though. Exactly. Inflation still increasing under Trump. The economic markers. Everybody says unemployment's the lowest it's ever been, and what we're using. Well, Trump criticized Obama. It's all just shell games, okay? The U.S. economy is being propped up, and any conservative that doesn't see that is lying to themselves. It just are. Doc mentioned the Freemasons, I know are just working stiff types. Yeah, the Masons that are on the lower levels, your second, third degree Masons, your Mason down the street, unless they're living in $1 million mansion, they don't know any better. They're just dupes, and they think Masonry is a Christian organization 9 times out of 10. Now the Masons at the highest level, of course, they're part of the world order structure. But yeah, it's just very interesting. It's very, the whole world order structure. It's almost difficult, almost impossible to grasp. Even I can't even fully grasp it yet. But it's the same people that say that you're Catholics, for example. My best friend's mother down the street is Catholic, and her going to Catholic mass, she's not part of no Grand Jesuit Knight of Malta conspiracy, no Catholic Grand Catholic conspiracy. She just goes to the mass. But yeah, it's Charlie Kirk is just Council for National Policy puppet. He didn't pull himself up by his bootstrap. His family has always been wealthy. Foster Freeze gave him $10,000, and supposedly the story is that they met at the Republican National Convention, and he had a meeting with a millionaire somehow Charlie Kirk was able to meet the millionaire Foster Freeze and ask him for his money. I mean, it's just silly. It's just really silly that people believe it's a feel-good story for the ages. He made something of himself, and the kids really got it going for him. I mean, look, I got some issues with Nick Fuentes too, but again, as I've always said, if I have to take Nick Fuentes over Charlie Kirk, I'm going to take Nick Fuentes, because at least he is fighting for America, and Charlie Kirk's one of the biggest shills that's ever been out there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed what you could of this speech. It was a lot of just platitudes and talking points and boring. But it is what it is. I wanted to play it just because, everybody, it's just another point to show that Charlie Kirk is very well liked and very well loved within the Council for National Policy. Okay, he's their boy. They love him. He's their darling. And Charlie Kirk will continue to gain power. Sadly, I don't think that Nick Fuentes or the Groypers really put a dent in Turning Point USA. I mean, Turning Point USA also has connections. Turning Point UK, should I say, has connections to Scientology, but the CMP does too. Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad that people look up to Charlie Kirk and look up to Turning Point USA, that they're really doing the right thing. But I mean, it's propaganda. You get it on both sides. It's how the world order works. If you're a leftist, if you're a liberal, you're going to a college campus, your teacher is most teachers are gonna give you the liberal perspective. If you're if you're conservative, you're going to find your chapter of Turning Point USA. So you're either going to get the institutionalized propaganda through your professor, your liberal globalist propaganda, that side of the pyramid, or you're going to get you're going to seek out a controlled group to teach the college campuses, like the Council for National Policy, to pick up the conservatives, because to the conservative youths, the college campuses are a toxic environment to them. So they're going to run right into the CMP to capture them and swoop them all up, instead of, being true to their conservative values. And they're going to be put in a safety net where they're being spoken to by Mike Pence and Nikki Haley, very strong neocon Zionist warmongers. So it's kind of like a catch-all, instead of getting like true conservatism and true beliefs and fighting for those. No, you're not going to do that. So again, you're going to get division on both sides when you go to college, and my heart goes out to the students. Or when my children grow up to go to college, my heart's going to it's what they're going to have to go through, because it's probably going to be worse then than it is now. And that's I don't know why I shudder to think of how big the right-left paradigm chasm is going to be there if there isn't a civil war beforehand, because of the division the world order has spewed. Charlie Kirk being up there with a bullhorn, but it is what it is. Doc says Nikki Haley is worse than Palin. Yeah. I agree. Way more sinister. Not to excuse the crimes of the Palin family, but yeah, she's definitely a little bit more well-spoken. Haley is, I would put it that way. But that's it. Hope you guys have a happy new year. I'm going to do some more streams in the near future. Hoping to have a stream with George and Daniel Hopsicker soon together. Me and George from cavdev.org interviewing Daniel Hopsicker. Hope to have Epic Journeyman on and Jimmy Jean on from Into the Microcosm to discuss 1980s Finders technology. For people who are looking into Finder stuff, we're going to talk a lot about the technology that the Finders cult or operation were using during the 1980s, and how it was cutting edge technology for the time, and how they had to have had funding to be able to afford that technology. So we're going to discuss that. Going to have Greg McCarran on from The Antidote probably the week after. So look out for that. It's going to be very interesting. We're going to talk about the Council for National Policy. We're going to talk about Trump's connections to Russia. Because it'll be a very good show. If anybody wants to reach out to Johnny Gat, I'm going to talk to Johnny Gat some. To him it's a little bit too much. It's all the it's a lot too much that it's all the Jews. He's not really talking about the Anglo interests as much, or the Jesuit Knights of Malta, Opus Dei interests. He kind of leaves those out to the side. I'm glad he's finally talking about the Russian interests, though. For a while he wasn't. Johnny Gat wasn't. But I'm glad he is now. Yeah, have him reach out to me, and I'd have him on. But that's it. Hope you guys have a happy new year. And always, till next time, continue reading the documents. Good night, everybody.